All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Morning.
So, what did we talk about last week? Anybody remember?
What?
What did we talk about last week?
Genesis.
Very good. Yes, we talked about Genesis last week. 24 and 25. What happened in 24? Anybody remember? We finished up 24. Remember, we had that hallmark moment where Isaac and Rebekah finally found each other. Yes.
Story
It was
story had to be told twice.
story had to be told twice. Yes, because Moses was trying to make a point.
Twice.
Opportunities, so it thrice, but only sold twice. Okay, good. Yeah. And that is true. He did. All right. And then in chapter 25, we had Abraham died. He finally passed away. That didn't sound nice. Abraham passes away, and Isaac, the story then goes into Isaac and his children. We finished up Ishmael. He has a bunch of children, 12 sons, who become tribes. And then we had, he passed away also. And then we have Jacob and Esau, who are who? Somebody said sons of who? Sons of Isaac? Yes, there we go. Sons of Isaac. Good. And Jacob and Esau were twins, right?
Yes.
Which one was born first? Esau. Esau was born first. He was the firstborn. Jacob came out. He was grasping at Esau's heel as he came out. What does Esau mean? Anybody remember?
Harry.
Harry. Yes. Hi, I'm Harry. Okay. And then Jacob. Anybody remember what Jacob means? Deceiver. Yeah. All right. So, and what important event happened in chapter 25 between Jacob and Esau? Jacob stole the birthright. Yes. Esau comes in. I'm so famished. I'm going to die if I don't get food. And Jacob goes, some of your birthright. I think he may have been kidding to start out with, but yeah, Esau went along with it. So Jacob goes, okay, we'll just keep going. I'll take your birthright. And so Jacob ends up with the birthright, and the birthright has to do with what you inherit. All right. So Jacob now has the inheritance of the firstborn as we start into chapter 26. Are we ready? Chapter 26, verse 1. Now there was a famine in the land besides the previous famine in Abraham's time. And Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, in Gerar. We're just going to stop right there and get the context here, okay? So there was a famine in the land. In other words, in Canaan, there was a famine. This keeps happening to them. And besides the previous famine in Abraham's time. So this is a reference back to chapter 12, verses 10 through 20, when Abraham is coming down. He is walking through the land, and then there's a famine, and he goes to Egypt. All right. Anybody remember what Abraham did in Egypt then? Something about Sarah, his wife? Yes. He said that Sarah was his sister, which was technically true. Okay. So he went to Egypt. So that's not the one they're talking about. They're talking about another famine. But this chapter also chapter 25 reflects both chapter 12 and chapter 20, where Abraham went and spent time with Abimelech. What did he do there? Sarah is my sister. Again. Okay, he did that twice. And so we're going to get the idea of what's going to happen in this chapter, right? We are not sure when when chapter 26 occurs, all right? But the first part, at least verses 1 through 13, is probably between 2467 and 2521, where you have Isaac is married and then has children. So 40 to 60. When Isaac was 40, he got married. At 60, he had children. So that 20-year span there is probably where this first part is happening. So we have a famine that's coming in, and Isaac goes to Abimelech in Gerar, probably because, remember, Abraham and Abimelech had a treaty between each other, their families. We also need to remember that the name Abimelech is not necessarily a proper name. It's probably a throne name. The people, whoever had the throne was called Abimelech, okay, in that particular city. So Isaac goes to Abimelech in Gerar, and Gerar is to the west and kind of south in Canaan, over towards the Mediterranean Sea side. Okay. Verse 2. The Lord appeared to Isaac and said, "Do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land where I tell you to live." So apparently, Isaac's first thought was, I'll do what my father did and go down to Egypt during this famine. Because remember, Gerar is also in Canaan, and it may have been suffering part of the famine too. But God says, don't do that. Don't go down to Egypt. Live in the land where I tell you to live. Stay in this land for a while, and I will be with you and will bless you. For to you and your descendants I will give all these lands, and will confirm the oath I swore to your father Abraham. I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and will give them all these lands, and through your offspring all nations on earth will be blessed. Because Abraham obeyed me and did everything I required of him, keeping my commands, my decrees, and my instructions. So Isaac stayed in Gerar. So God comes and speaks to Isaac, and he promises Isaac the same thing he promised to Abraham. You're going to have land, you're going to have heirs, and all the world is going to be blessed because of you. And he says, but you got to stay in the land. Okay. So he stayed in the land. He confirmed the covenant with Isaac for heirs. Very important to understand that. And so Isaac says, okay, I'll stay in the land. So he goes to Gerar, where there is help from the king there. And the reason that God is continuing on the promise, the covenant with that family is because Abraham upheld the covenant. Isaac is following in his father's footsteps and doing the same. Verse 7. When the men of that place, this is Gerar, asked him about his wife, he said, "She is my sister." Here we go again. Like father, like son. Because he was afraid to say, "She is my wife." He thought the men of this place might kill me on account of Rebekah, because she is beautiful. When Isaac had been there a long time, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked down from a window and saw Isaac caressing his wife Rebekah. So Abimelech summoned Isaac and said, "She is really your wife. Why did you say she is my sister?" Isaac answered him, "Because I thought I might lose my life on account of her." Then Abimelech said, "What is this you have done to us? One of the men might well have slept with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us." So Abimelech gave orders to all the people, "Anyone who harms this man or his wife shall surely be put to death." All right. So Isaac goes in, he passes off Rebekah as his sister. Now, she was a first cousin once removed. She was not his sister, so that was not an outright lie. But he thought, Abraham did it. If he had remembered the whole story, it didn't work out well for Abraham either. He got kicked out of Egypt. He got kicked out of Gerar.
Was that normal for people to kill because their wife?
Apparently. I want your wife, so I'm going to kill you. I don't know. I guess it was because these two were terribly afraid of it. But think about this. What had God just promised Isaac?
Land and heirs, blessings.
And how do you get those if you're dead? You don't. He should have had some faith in God that he was going to fulfill his promise to him and he wouldn't be killed because of Rebekah. But no, Rebekah's my sister. So then one day, Abimelech is sitting there looking out the window and he sees Isaac do something that only a husband could do to a wife, okay, in that culture. What? No, not laughing.
That's what my Bible says.
Isaac means laughing, laughter. Yeah, Isaac means laughter.
Okay.
No, they were kissing or something more intimate that only a husband would do with his wife in public. And so something you wouldn't do with your sister, let's put it that way. And Abimelech goes, this is looking kind of familiar. Now, like I said, this may not be the same Abimelech. In fact, it's been at least over 40 years since Abraham had been in with Abimelech. So probably not the same one, but you probably heard the stories of this weird guy that came in and said, hey, this is my sister, and he caused all kinds of problems because of that. And he's thinking, yeah, that's his son. I think I know what's going on here. So he confronts Isaac and he says, hey, she's not your sister. She's your wife. And he goes, yeah. Why? Why did you say she is your wife? Because it's about all it's really like, I thought I might lose my life. And Abimelech goes, what would have happened if one of these guys had taken her as his wife? You would have brought evil on us. I mean, last time God spoke to the king about it, warned him. This time he must not have had to. But you would have brought evil on us. So this king did have moral standards, and he believed in God, just like his father, or I guess could have been him still. And Abimelech then gives orders that nobody touches Rebekah or Isaac. Okay, just leave them alone. They're under my protection. And apparently, Isaac was more trusting of Abimelech's protection than he was of God's protection, because that was okay now. So, verse 12. Isaac planted crops in that land. In other words, he is still in with Abimelech and Gerar. Isaac planted crops in that land, and the same year he reaped 100-fold because the Lord blessed him. The man became rich, and his wealth continued to grow until he became very wealthy. He had so many flocks and herds and servants that the servants envied him. So all the wells that his father's servants had dug in the time of his father Abraham, the Philistines stopped up, filling them with earth. Okay, so Isaac is doing, is planting crops, and God is blessing him because that is what God does with this family. He is the child of promise, so he blesses them. Okay, and so he reaps 100-fold on his crops. Now remember, why did he go into the land in the first place? There was a famine, and now he's getting 100-fold on his crops. So the famine's over, guys. But this causes irritation with the Philistines. They envy him because he is getting so much more out of his crops than they are. So they come up with this plan. We'll just stop up all the wells that he would be using. So they stop them up. All the ones that Isaac's fathers, Abraham had dug, his servants had dug, they stopped up. So cut off the water supply. You stop him from having all the riches because he can't have animals, and he can't do crops very well. Now notice something here. In verse 13, it says, the man became rich, Isaac, and his wealth continued to grow until he became very wealthy. That's why I think this part at least was not, I'll get there, was before Abraham died, before Isaac had come into all the wealth that he would come into from his inheritance. He was still building his own wealth. Okay, so he became wealthy here. And then after Abraham had passed away, when he had all the flocks and herds and servants and everything, now you come into the real problem and they start stopping up the wells. Okay. Verse 16, then Abimelech said to Isaac, move away from us. You have become too powerful for us. So Abimelech comes up with his own solution. Instead of stopping up the wells, which hurts everybody, because now you don't have access to water, he says, move away. Get out of here. I don't want you anymore. Just shoo. That's his solution to it. So Abimelech tells Isaac to move. So Isaac moved away from there and encamped in the valley of Gerar, where he settled. So he just went a few miles down the road into the valley. Isaac reopened the wells that had been dug in the time of his father Abraham, which the Philistines had stopped after Abraham died. So that tells us this does take place after Abraham has passed away. And he gave them the names his father had given them. So he renamed all the wells the same thing. You think, well, how did he do that? Were there like signs there? Oral tradition. Oral tradition. The family would pass down where these wells were, what their names were, how they came to be named that. And so Isaac goes and reopens all these wells. Now Isaac's servants dug in the valley and discovered a well of fresh water there. So they get a new well. But the herders of Gerar quarreled with those of Isaac and said, the water is ours. So he named the well Esek, because they disputed with him. Then they dug another well, but they quarreled over that one also. So he named it Sitnah. He moved on from there and dug another well, and no one quarreled over it. He named it Rehoboth, saying, now the Lord has given us room, and we will flourish in the land. So he starts digging wells then in this area where he is after opening up the older wells. And the first one he digs got water out of it, but the Philistines decide they want it, and they come in and they say, no, that's our well. We dug it. Show me the calluses on your hands that you dug. No. So they say, we dug it. And so this is called the well of dispute, Esek. Isaac moves on. He doesn't fight with them. He just moves on. And another well, same thing happens. And so he calls that the well of opposition, which is Sitnah. Once again, Isaac moves on. Finally, they dig a well. No one says anything about it, which means they are far enough away from these guys. It doesn't matter now. And he called that Rehoboth, or the well of room. We've got plenty of room to do things now. So Isaac has finally found a place to land. Verse 23, from there he went up to Beersheba. That night the Lord appeared to him and said, I am the Lord God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I will bless you and will increase the number of your descendants for the sake of my servant Abraham. Isaac built an altar there and called on the name of the Lord. There he pitched his tent, and there his servants dug a well. Meanwhile, Abimelech had come to him from Gerar with Ahuzeth, his personal advisor, and Phicol, the commander of his forces. Isaac asked them, why have you come to me, since you are hostile to me and sent me away? They answered, we saw clearly that the Lord was with you. So we said, there ought to be a sworn agreement between us and you. Let us make a treaty with you that you will do us no harm, just as we did not harm you, but always treated you well and sent you away peacefully. Now you are blessed by the Lord. Isaac then made a feast for them, and they ate and drank. Early the next morning, the men swore an oath to each other. Then Isaac sent them on their way, and they went away peacefully. That day, Isaac's servants came and told him about the well they had dug. They said, "We found water." He called it Sheba. And to this day, the name of the town has been Beersheba. So Isaac moved down to Beersheba. There's about 15 Beershebas, okay, between him and Abraham. So, and Jacob also has one too, I think. So he goes down and he's at Beersheba where Abraham had been. And the Lord appeared to him. Actually, Beersheba, where Abraham was, would have been where he had made the original treaty with Abimelech. Okay. Because it means well of the oath or well of the seven, well of the oath. So that night, while Isaac is sleeping, God comes to him and he says, "Hey, don't be afraid." And Isaac's thinking, that would have been better like when I was passing Rebekah off as my sister. But okay, don't be afraid. I'm with you. Increase the number of descendants for the sake of Abraham. So you're going to have children. This time, they apparently didn't have children yet. So Isaac builds an altar there because that's where God appeared to him. And he pitched his tent and he dug a well, which means I'm going to stay there for a while. When you dig a well, you're more permanent resident. So God spoke to Isaac. And then we come up and here comes Abimelech with a treaty again. This time for Isaac instead of with Abraham. And I love this. He comes up and says, "Do us no harm, just as we did not harm you, but always treated you well. Yes, you treated me for my wells, is what the problem was. That's why I'm living here instead of over in Gerar." But they're like, "Oh, we were so nice to you." Isaac goes ahead and makes a treaty with him. They have a feast, which in that culture, to have a feast with somebody would help solidify a treaty. And then he calls the well that they dig there and they get water, Beersheba, which is well of the oath. Okay. So once again, we don't know if this is the same Abimelech. Phicol, the general, that could be just the name general. Okay, kind of like Abimelech is king. Phicol would be general or head of the military. So, or it could be the same one that dealt with Abraham. We're just not sure on that. But now Isaac has a treaty with Abimelech, just like Abraham had, right? And now we get back into the story of Jacob and Esau, the soap opera parts. But first, we have to ask a question. Why the same type story 3 times? I mean, yes, it happened 3 times, but why bother to put all 3 of those in there? Well, I think God wanted to make the people who are listening to Moses at first understand that God will fulfill his promises and will protect those promises, even if we don't believe them. Abraham and Isaac didn't truly believe God's promise for that they would inherit the land and have descendants. In other words, they didn't believe that they wouldn't get killed before this happened. God says, "I'm still with you." And so even though they didn't believe, God is going to fulfill his promises to them. And the people of Israel at that time would need to know this because they had already gone into the land and saw that, oh, there's giants there. We can't take it. And they said, all right, we're not going to go in. Then when they were told they were going to have to run around 40 years in the wilderness, they said, oh, well, we can take it. So they went in and tried to take it and they got slaughtered. They came back with their tails between their legs. So that would kind of make them think, well, maybe God isn't going to fulfill his promise. Here, Moses is saying, yes, God does fulfill his promise, even if you don't believe. Even if you don't believe that God can take the land for you, God will still take the land for you. Okay? All right, here we go. All the days of our lives. Or I guess this would be more of the young and the restless. Verse 34. When Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith, daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and also Basemath, daughter of Elon the Hittite. They were a source of grief to Isaac and Rebekah. Okay, so this really seems out of place. I mean, we just got through with this thing about Beersheba, and now here Esau is out marrying Hittites. Well, there is a contrast here because Isaac is following God. Esau is off doing his own thing. He's not really following God. He is marrying Canaanite women, which he shouldn't be doing. So Esau at this point is 40 years old, and Isaac is 100 years old. So Isaac's getting up there. And Esau marries Canaanite women, which are the Hittites or Canaanites. And it's a source of grief to his parents. So this is kind of, we'll see this later, but this is kind of a precursor to what is going to happen within this passage. And it becomes the first part of the bookends to this passage. Okay? So Esau is doing something that just causes grief to his parents. Chapter 27. When Isaac was old, and his eyes were so weak that he could no longer see, he called for Esau, his older son, and said to him, "My son." "Here I am," he answered. Isaac said, "I'm now an old man and don't know the day of my death. Now then, get your equipment, your quiver and bow, and go out to the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare for me the kind of tasty food I like and bring it to me to eat, so that I may give you my blessing before I die." All right, remember something about Jacob and Esau. Esau was a hunter. He was out doing stuff away from the tents, everything. Jacob was always around the tents. Okay, he may have been cooking. He may have been doing DIY projects, taking care of animals around there, whatever. He was more along within the tents. So there was a definite difference between these two. Also remember that Isaac loved Esau. Rebekah loved Jacob. So you have this division already that's going on. And so Jacob is getting old, and he wants to give the blessing to Esau. Now, the blessing is different than the birthright. Birthright has to do with inheritance. The blessing has to do with, number one, what the father projects this child will be like in the future. But number two, it also gave the structure of the family. Who was in charge of the family? Who would get the most benefit from the family? Who would take over everything? Even if the firstborn had all the things, he may have had to have gone to the second person, second-born son, for the wisdom and so on. So it was usually the firstborn would get everything in the inheritance, and they would get the blessing of becoming the patriarch of the family, right? That's the way it's supposed to work. And that's what Jacob or Isaac wants to give. I have Jacob gives Esau a task to accomplish before him. Jacob didn't do it. Isaac gives Esau a task to accomplish before giving him the blessing. He said, "I want you to go out, I want you to hunt, I want you to get some wild game and prepare it like I like, because you know how I like it." So the father would gather his sons and declare his vision for their future. That was the blessing, part of the blessing. And it would also convey the roles the sons would have within the family once the father had passed away. Right? Now we can see this in like Genesis 48:12 through 20, when Israel, Jacob, is blessing Joseph's sons, or when in Genesis 49, Jacob, Israel, blesses his own sons. Okay, all 12 of them. Verse 5. Now Rebekah was listening as Isaac spoke to his son Esau. When Esau left for the open country to hunt game and bring it back, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Look, I overheard your father say to your brother Esau, 'Bring me some game and prepare me some tasty food to eat, so that I may give you my blessing in the presence of the Lord before I die.' Now, my son, listen carefully and do what I tell you. Go out to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats, so I can prepare some tasty food for your father, just the way he likes it. Then take it to your father to eat, so he may give you his blessing before he dies." All right. So Jacob's not the only deceiver in the family. And I think he gets the deception part from his mother's family. We'll find out later about how deceptive his mother's family is. His brother is especially. So she overheard the conversation between Isaac and Esau. And she says, "All right, I got a plan. So I want you to go out and get a couple of goats, get the best goats you can, and I will make the food that tastes just like Esau makes it, because I'm the one who taught Esau how to make it. I can do it the way he does, and that should fool your father, and you will end up with the blessing." So we got machinations going on here. So Rebekah came up with the plan to fool Isaac into giving Jacob the blessing. Verse 11, Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, "But my brother Esau is a hairy man." We've already established that several times. "While I have smooth skin. What if my father touches me? I would appear to be tricking him and would bring down a curse on myself rather than a blessing." His mother said to him, "My son, let the curse fall on me. Just do what I say. Go and let them and get them for me." So Jacob goes, "Wait, I have smooth skin. Esau is just extremely hairy. He's going to know the difference. I mean, yeah, he's half blind and we're twins, so we look alike, but he is going to know the difference if he touches me and I'm not hairy in 2 different ways. I'm not hairy, and I'm not really hairy. I'm Jacob." So he says, and if that happens, if he figures out I'm trying to fool him and trick him into getting the blessing, he's going to curse me instead. And I don't want that. And Rebekah goes, "Don't worry, I'll take on the curse." I don't think that's the way it works, Rebekah, but okay. Verse 14. So he went and got them, the goats, and brought them to his mother, and she prepared some tasty food, just the way his father liked it. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of Esau, her older son, which she had in the house, and put them on her younger son, Jacob. She also covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with the goat skins. Then she handed to her son Jacob the tasty food and the bread she had made. All right, so Isaac is kind of blind at this point. He can't see very well, so that takes out eyesight. They're not really too much worried about that because, once again, they're twins. It's hard to tell them apart. But the other senses, they're going to have to fool the other senses. So Rebekah works on taste. Well, I make the stew the same way that Esau does because I'm the one who taught him how to do it. So we got that done. Smell. What about Jacob doesn't smell like the outside. He's an inside person. So Rebekah goes and gets some of Esau's clothing. So Isaac will smell like the outside. And touch. Well, we've already covered touch. Hairy. Well, how does she solve that? She takes some of the skin from the goats they just killed and puts them on his arms and hands. So he's extremely hairy. I don't know how hairy Harry was, but he was hairy. Wow. I mean, to have a goat skin on there and you think, oh, yeah, that's my son. So, verse 18. He, Jacob, went to his father and said, "My father." "Yes, my son," he answered. "Who is it?" Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game so that you may give me your blessing." Isaac asked his son, "How did you find it so quickly, my son?" "The Lord your God gave me success," he replied. Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Come near so I can touch you, my son. To know whether you really are my son Esau or not." Jacob went close to his father, Isaac, who touched him and said, the voice is voice of Jacob. See, they couldn't, the hearing was still good. The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. He did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau. So he proceeded to bless him. Are you really my son Esau? He asked. I am, he replied. Then he said, my son, bring me some of your game to eat, so that I may give you my blessing. Jacob brought it to him, and he ate, and he brought some wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, come here, my son, and kiss me. So he went to him and kissed him. When Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, so Isaac comes up and, well, why is this so fast? I mean, goodness, you could have been gone 20 minutes. How did you do this? And Jacob says, I walked out, there it was, God just sent it to me. And it was fast. I put it in the microwave, we were done in minutes, no problem. Says, God provided it for me. And so they went through all the steps. Isaac wasn't fully convinced because the voice was Jacob's, but okay, so he's hairy like Esau, and the food tastes right. And he embraced him to kiss him. He smelled right. Okay, so Isaac is fooled, and now he's going to bless Jacob. Verse 27, so when he went to him and kissed him, when Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, oh, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. Now he gets into the real blessing. May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness, and abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. So Jacob gives the blessing, and he says, you get grain and new wine. May you have lots of grain and new wine. In other words, you're now responsible for providing for the family. Also, you have control of the agricultural assets. Okay, that's what a firstborn would do. And then he is to become the family's patriarch. Everyone is to bow down to you. Your brothers are to bow down to you. Your mother's family is to bow down to you. Nations are to bow down to you. You become the patriarch of this family. And then he gives him protection. Those who curse you will be cursed. Those who bless you will be blessed. That is a blessing of protection. Okay, that no one is going to hurt him, because if they do, they will be cursed, and no one wants to get cursed, so they leave him alone. So that's what the blessing that Jacob gets. That is the blessing of the firstborn. He is now to become the patriarch of the family when Isaac passes away. Verse 30. After Isaac finished blessing him, and Jacob had scarcely left his father's presence, his brother Esau came in from hunting. He too prepared some tasty food and brought it to his father. Then he said to him, my father, please sit up and eat some of my game, so that you may give me your blessing. His father Isaac asked him, who are you? I'm your son, he answered, your firstborn, Esau. And Isaac's going, do I have Alzheimer's? I thought I did this before. What is going on here? Isaac trembled violently and said, who was that then that hunted game and brought it to me? I ate it just before you came, and I blessed him, and indeed he will be blessed. When Esau heard his father's words, he burst out with a loud and bitter cry and said to his father, bless me too, my father. But he said, your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing. Isaac's not stupid. He figured out what had happened. But Esau, poor Esau. So the deception's discovered. They understand. Yeah, it's Jacob once again, that little deceiver. And Esau just laments. He says, verse 36, isn't he rightly named Jacob? This is the second time he's taken advantage of me. He took my birthright, and now he's taken my blessing. And he asked, haven't you reserved any blessing for me? So Esau is just beside himself Worse than when he thought he was going to die if he didn't get food. Don't you have any other blessing? In other words, surely you had a blessing for Jacob. It wasn't going to be all for me, right? What was your blessing for Jacob going to be? Isaac answered Esau, I have made him lord over you, and have made all his relatives his servants, and I have sustained him with grain and new wine. So what can I possibly do for you, my son? In other words, Isaac loved Esau so much, he only had one blessing. He wasn't going to give any kind of a blessing to Jacob at all. So Jacob ends up stealing everything. That's partly Isaac's fault. Esau said to his father, do you have only one blessing, my father? Bless me too, my father. Then Esau wept aloud. Once again, such a diva. His father Isaac answered him, okay, here you go. Your dwelling will be away from the earth's richness, away from the dew of heaven above. You will live by the sword, and you will serve your brother. When you grow restless, you will throw his yoke off your neck. Thanks a lot, Dad.
Why can't you just take the blessing away from him?
The problem is, apparently, even if it was done by deceit, once the blessing was given to somebody, it stayed. That was the blessing, period. You couldn't take it back. No takebacks. Okay, yes.
Could you go into the difference again between birthright and blessing? Just a little bit. Why is he not entitled to the blessing based on the birthright? Or was that just
No.
Isaac's preference?
The birthright and blessings are two separate things. The birthright has to do with inheritance, what you're going to inherit. So he would have Jacob would have inherited everything. But the blessing is different. It is who is now in charge. So you can inherit everything, but not be put in charge. And so Esau gets that taken away too. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of conflict in that.
A lot of conflict in that house. Like I said, it's a nice soap opera. So Esau is going to live in the desert. He's going to survive through violence, live by the sword, and eventually, that makes no sense, eventually be away from Jacob's leadership. Okay, there is going to be a split, and we will see this later on, that even though Jacob takes on the patriarchal role, Esau has his own life, has his own family, and does very well. God still blesses him too. Okay, so there is little hope there, but this poor guy is living in the desert, surviving by the sword. He doesn't get all the benefits that Jacob is going to get. And by the way, with this blessing, Jacob now becomes the son of promise. He inherits the land, and he inherits the spiritual blessings that God is passing down through that family. All right. All right, verse 41 to 46, an assassination plot. Verse 41, Esau held a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing his father had given him. Okay, now, that's kind of ambiguous. Is he grudging because of the blessing Isaac gave to Jacob, or because of the blessing Isaac gave to Esau? Probably both. But he's holding a grudge, and we can see why. He said to himself, the days of mourning for my father are near, then I will kill my brother Jacob. So as soon as Dad dies, and we're done mourning for him, we're going to be mourning for my brother because I'm going to kill him. And then I take over everything. Now, when Rebekah was told what her older son Esau had said, she sent for her younger son Jacob and said to him, your brother Esau is planning to avenge himself by killing you. You cannot get anything past the mother. I'm sorry. Mothers have eyes and ears all over the place. And Rebekah is no different. So she knows that the plot is coming. Esau wants to kill Jacob. And so Rebekah is going to come up with a plan to save Jacob. Now then, my son, do what I say. Flee at once to my brother Laban in Haran. Stay with him for a while until your brother's fury subsides. When your brother is no longer angry with you and forgets what you did to him, I'll send word for you to come back from there. Why should I lose both of you in one day? So Rebekah's plan to save Jacob is I'm going to send him up to my brother Laban. I mean, that's where Isaac got his wife, Rebekah. So just send him back up to my family. He can find a wife there. He can hide out there. And I'll keep Esau here so he doesn't kill him. That's the plan. And of course, one of these days, of course, Esau will just forget all about it and he won't want to kill you anymore. And then you can come home. We do not see that in here. Him being able to come home, being told to come home. But there is reconciliation coming later. That's a spoiler alert. Sorry. Okay, so verse 46. Then Rebekah said to Isaac, I'm disgusted with living because of these Hittite women. Okay, who has the Hittite women? Esau. So I'm disgusted with living with these Hittite women. So if you're going to get rid of them, you're going to have to get rid of Esau, right? Yeah. Rebekah's a schemer. If Jacob takes a wife from among the women of this land, from the Hittite women like these, my life will not be worth living. I'm just going to kill myself. Okay, so apparently Esau got the diva part from her, from his mother. So she is now saying, I want Esau, I don't want Jacob taking on these wives from here. So her plan is going to be to ship him off, which starts in chapter 28, which we will cover next time. But first, I have a question. Why? Why the repetition of the Hittite wives? In other words, why start out in, I'll get there, 26, at the end of chapter 26, talking about Esau's wives, and now talking about them again here at the end of chapter 27. Well, I think there are two reasons for this. Now, first one is it's literary. It's a literary device. Like I said, this forms bookends between around this story of Jacob stealing the blessing. So it's a literary device. Second. So it's a literary device. Also, not only is it bookends, but by saying that in the end of 26, before you start the story, now this part that he's presenting at the end of 27 makes sense. If Moses had just come up and said, hey, I hate these Hittite women. What Hittite women? We wouldn't have a clue. So it's a literary device, but it's also a spiritual device to remind those who were listening to Moses, do not marry the people of Canaan. God doesn't want you marrying the people in Canaan. Esau, who was getting further and further away from God, is the one who married in Canaan. Isaac, who is supposed to be getting closer to God, and Jacob, who are supposed to be getting closer to God, went and married within the family. Now, I know that sounds disgusting to us, but it works for them, okay? So that's one question, why the repetition of the Hittite wives. My second question is, why did the children who were sent away end up living by the sword? Think about it. When Ishmael was sent away, God said he's going to be a wild man, just, against everybody. And he's going to live in the desert. Why is that true? Why now is Esau going to be living by the sword and living in the desert? Well, I think the lesson there for the people who are first listening to this is the further you get away from God's blessings, the harder life is. So, guys, if you want good life, an easier life, stay where God is. Go towards the promised land. Believe that God will take it for you. If you stay over here in the wilderness, it's going to be hard life. Don't stay in the wilderness. Okay? Does that make sense? That'd be what he's saying. All right. So it is easier to see where God is leading when you know where God has been. And I'm sure those people from Israel would have loved to have known all of this after, where is God really leading us? Where has God really been? And that's really what Moses is telling him. This is where God's been. You're being led here. Go, David.
So give us an application of that in our lives today. What does what you just said mean? Because it sounds great.
Sounds what?
Sounds great.
Oh, good. For me, let's just say each person is different. Okay. So for me, when I was diagnosed with cancer, if I was far from God, I would have been extremely fearful, thinking, oh, this is the end. Now what do I do? Wringing my hands. I had absolute peace. Things went much better for me through the treatments and stuff and continued treatments than I think it would have if I was away from God, not thinking about God, just thinking about how am I going to handle this? So things go better. They may not actually physically go better for you, but if you're with God, you'll have the peace and comfort of God within you and strength working in you, okay, to get you through it better. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
All right.
I'd add to that, go to church and read your Bible, do your Bible study. The more you immerse yourself in this knowledge, the more your mind will be at peace.
Yes. The more you understand where God has been by reading through the Bible, the more you will understand how God is leading you in your life today. Okay? All right. Thank you all.